Preview on the Buddhist practice by Venerable Rung Ruang Papa's Sorrow, Dr. Rung Ruang Lim Chu Patipa. The Buddhism is a pragmatic religion. The key success in Buddhism is based on the real experience. And no matter how much we make the studies, but everyone must perform the Buddhist practice to experience the reality of the truth of life within nature in order to have a clear understanding of what the life really is. However, before performing the Buddhist practice, it is necessary to study on how to perform the practice rightly first. The Buddha encouraged everyone to perform this experimental Buddhist practice and then make an investigation to see the true Dharma, that is, by observing the arising mental phenomena within the mind, and investigating on the cause and effect of each particular phenomenon to understand the truths of life. The emphasis of Buddha's teachings is fundamentally based on scientific methodology of the insight observation, on the mind, not just belief. What probably the most important goal in observing mental phenomena of the Buddhist practice is the complete understanding of the operating system of the mind, that is, the process of dependent origination of the mind. Before the Buddha time, there were so many types of religious meditations and practices. The Brahman practice was the common way to perform a practice in ancient time. The Brahman teachings are based on beliefs in gods, then by reciting some sacred words praising the gods, then the mind dwells into deep absorption, and then a person was somehow being able to attain some kinds of supernatural powers. It was sort of oral traditions passed from generation to generation with belief. In Ariyapariyesana Sutta, the Buddha explained that these kinds of practices were not the path and way to enlightenment, and these kinds of practices were worthless to gain wisdom to make an end of suffering in life. The subjects of interest to be discussed on the Buddhist practice are as follows. The Noble Search. The search for the truths of life within nature to make an end of suffering in life. The Three Similes. The classification of the three levels of searching for truths of life within nature. The path and way to enlightenment. Instead of using the meditation to force the mind to be in a certain wholesome base of the state of mind, and to hold such base as long as possible. The path and way to enlightenment is the foundation of the Buddhist practice by which the mindfulness is established to see the Dharma of the truths of life within nature through the mind processing, and then utilize this knowledge to activate the introspective leaning as the instructed cognition for mind development. The Buddha enlightenment. The Buddha discovery of the truths of life within nature. The role of mindfulness to establish the vision of the truths of life within nature, and the application of mindfulness with wisdom for the destruction of all the defilements. The Four Noble Truths. The analytical technique to investigate the observed data from insight observation to gain the knowledge and vision of the truths of life within nature. The true knowledge and vision. The true knowledge of the law of cause and effect in nature, the process of dependent origination describing on how the life interacts with the world and the mind processing in responding to take certain action to the world. The liberation of life. After taking the right execution to maneuver the mind processing into the right pathway, all defilements will be abandoned and destructed, so that the mind becomes wholesome and is purified from defilements, and then the mind is liberated from all kinds of troubling objects of consciousness, and this is the way to make an end of suffering in life. The heartwood of the spiritual life. Similar to the previous discussion of the classification of the three similes, the Buddha exemplified the search for the noble truth like a person going into a forest searching for hardwood. When cutting any tree, we have to go through several layers starting with the attainment of moral discipline, which can be compared like cutting the twigs and leaves, then taking practice for the attainment of concentration, which can be compared like cutting into the sapwood, the inner bark, the outer bark. Definitely, we have to continue the practice rightly to gain the knowledge and vision, which can be compared like the hardwood of the final takeaway. This concept of Buddhist study is called the Threefold Study Strategy. The Threefold Study Strategy. The Threefold Study Strategy consists of three levels, starting with the study on moral discipline, which is sort of the rules of conduct about behaviors that are not permitted and the consequences applied when the behaviors occur. We can find the moral discipline in every religion's setting to keep members in the community to live together in peace. Secondly, the study on mind, which is generally sort of religious practice of meditation. However, what sets the Buddhism apart from all other religions is the study on wisdom development, which requires the establishment of mindfulness to perform insight observation to see the dharma of the truths of life within nature inside the mind processing to gain the knowledge and vision for the mind development to make an end of suffering in life. The footprint of the Buddha. The Buddha modified his experiences on the day of his enlightenment in the Buddhist practice, which this Buddhist practice is called the practice to follow the footprint of the Buddha. That is, the set the path and way of his enlightenment as an example for the Buddhists to practice, which can be compared like following the footprint of the Buddha in order to be successful in life as well. Samatha and Vipassana. In the Buddhist practice, the insight observation, Vipassana, is so important that the true knowledge and vision can be contemplated only by having a good investigation on the mind processing. Therefore, the mind has to reach a special state of internal serenity of mind in samatha first before performing the insight observation in vipassana. The 37 factors for enlightenment. In parallel to the practice of the footprint of the Buddha, practitioners may notice that the mind is progressively developed step by step like a series of milestones in 37 factors of accomplishments during the practice. Therefore, practitioners may utilize the 37 factors for enlightenment as a guideline of the Buddhist practice as well. The unborn supreme security from bondage of all kinds of problems in life, nibbana. There is no rebirth of the object of consciousness in the process of dependent origination. This is the ultimate achievement of life development in Buddhism.